and we're going to continue with GA. And delighted to say that the Sligo senior football manager Tony McEntee joins myself and Adrian on the line this morning. Morning, Tony. How are things?
Morning, Shane. How are you?
All good. Thanks a million for joining us. I know it's been a couple of days since the action in Castlebar. Have you had time to decompress, to reflect on it, I guess relax and unwind after the Connacht final?
Okay, I have, yeah, very much so. Yeah, we've it was a 5-hour journey home, Shane, on Sunday evening with traffic, and then a stopover with the family and kids with me. So by the time I got home, I'd plenty of time to think about it.
That'll bring you back down to earth, having the kids in the car and the 5-hour journey.
Yeah, well, to be fair, then I got home just in time for the Sunday game, actually. So I was only in the door and the Sunday game started. So I'm not sure if that was positive or negative for me, to be honest with you.
Did you turn it on?
I did turn it on, yeah. And the Sligo game was first up, actually. So it was good timing. Yeah, it was good timing.
Does it give you? Do you watch punditry now with a level of scepticism? Because I guess there's the attitude that for people inside the camp, they're the only ones who know really what's going on. So you can sometimes hear criticism or even plaudits that maybe you're thinking, well, that's, if only they knew what was really going on inside the camp. So I guess from an intercounty manager's perspective, watching things like the Sunday game can be an interesting enough experience.
It can be. I suppose the issue here is there's no issue really. The thing is that with the from a management and coaching perspective, of course, people outside the camp don't know what's going on, and that's fine. But we're not really appealing to them. I think the Sunday game appeals. Sorry, Sunday game is not really appealing to us. The Sunday game is appealing more to the masses, the people that are actually the fans that are watching the game, or those that are interested in the game. And I think when it comes to the lower ranked teams or the lower division teams, I'm talking about anybody beyond the top 13, I suppose, at this point in time. I'm not sure the Sunday game gives them a fair perspective on their season and where they're going. And I suppose why I say that is that most of the pundits, and I've been there once myself, is that most of the pundits on the Sunday game would have, to quote a friend of mine, dined at the top table. They haven't spent time at the lower rank end of the leagues, whether it be Division 2, Division 3, or even Division 4. And therefore the perspective on that isn't as strong, And unintentionally or not, I think they come across sometimes as patronizing towards those lower ranked teams, It's hard on them, it's a pity for them, and they shouldn't be there, and all this other stuff, I'm not sure that's particularly helpful for the wider masses, or I don't think it's particularly enlightening for the pundits themselves to do it, So from that end, it's on the game for me, isn't as helpful for me in relation to analysis and that, but I would like it to be a wee bit more inclusive, or have a broader perspective on the audience that it actually appeals to.
And there's always the phrases that come out as well that you hear, punching above their weight, and the phrase was probably used for Sligo heading into the Connacht final. I'm sure they'll just be glad to be there, and it can be a little bit condescending at times, because you look at the form, like since you lost the league opener against Laois, you'd won 9 games in a row, which included the Division 4 final and those championship games against London and New York. But it almost feels like, sure, Jesus, Galway are just showing up. Now, of course, Galway win the game in the end, but sometimes the narrative, I feel like in advance, can be a little bit condescending towards counties like Sligo.
It can be. Now, I got a chance yesterday to watch a game, and Shane Adrian, you both know at this stage that the perspective of teams like Sligo and possibly Clare, but certainly Sligo, coming into this All-Ireland series, is that this is an opportunity for us to learn something about ourselves and learn something about the team as a whole, and also to learn about ourselves as a management team, and to bring that maybe into next year's Division 3 in our case, and see, can we develop and improve. And I want to say this before, is that we won't get the chance to play 3 and 4 games against Division 1, Division 2 teams for many, many years, but we'll have to get to Division 2 as a minimum to do that, and that's quite a bit away at this stage. So this is a huge opportunity for us, and one that we're not likely to get at anytime soon. So we're looking at this as really a learning experience and something that we can bring something from. Now, I watched the game back last night, and there's a huge amount of positives in this game for us, and there's a huge amount of good play that we had as well, and I think there is value in looking at these games as to where, for example, the Sligo in this case did well, or where we were able to curb some of the influence of Galway. And while Galway, to be fair, played really well, and they're also a phenomenal team, there were a number of the Galway players which we're not as good as they might normally be, and that has to have been by not by chance. There has to have been some influence in Sligo and that. Like Como was quiet and he's fabulous. Like Shane Walsh was quiet, and Rob Finnerty was quiet. From a forward unit. Sean Kelly had less influence than he's had in recent games. So, and maybe on another day they would be better against us, but just on this day they weren't. And I think there's value in asking why did that work out well, and was the Sligo players actually played really well. Both teams created very little or shot very little wide, both Sligo and Galway. And again, that's I'm not saying that's rare, but it's certainly good play, a good practice. Both teams created a reasonable amount of scoring opportunities, so it wasn't particularly a negative game or otherwise. So I think there's value in looking at these games and saying, where are the good aspects of these games? Where can teams like Sligo learn from? What can they bring forward? And it's a much more positive conversation than maybe a patronising tone in relation to why they're doing in this championship and so on.
Let's get into some of that then, Tony. What when you're watching back the goals, particularly, let's say, and I know you said that Comer obviously had a quiet enough game. He did set up the 2 goals, and Tierney will play will tear plenty of teams asunder, I'm sure, over the course of the year as well. I just wondered, from your point of view, looking at the 2 goals, that even though they were different, there were some similarities in that sort of ball over the top. One was obviously a slip in midfield. Both times that sort of unmarked runner comes into play in the shape of Tierney in that case. Are you looking at that saying, here's what we should have done differently on that, or what's your learning out of it?
So the second goal first. I know I don't see the second goal as a learning. Some of the reporters were asking me after the game, is the difference between Division 4 and Division 1 the amount of time you have in the ball? And I said, that may well be true in part, but that wasn't the case the weekend. And the case the weekend where we coughed up a lot of possession was simply by mistakes. I think it's on the game had it that Galway scored 2-7 from mistakes or ball that they got back. So going into this game, of course, we know that if we give up possession, that good teams are likely to punish you. So that's not really a learning. That's a fact that coming into the match. So the second goal in particular was a ball that came across the field, probably travelled a reasonable distance, but I think the Sligo player at the time was a wee bit casual coming into the ball, and the pass itself wasn't perfect. So a mix of those two things just meant that Comer got in, got his hands in the ball, and then we were open at that stage for a counter-attack. And because that ball came from possession that we had won back, and our full back line had driven forward, our players had got forward to try and get into offensive positions at pace, and we were out of shape at that stage. And once we lost the ball, then we were wide open for it. But the follow-on aspects of that, then from a defensive end, Tierney came from behind, and he wasn't tracked as a late runner coming in, and he was able to get in behind and just do that. So there wasn't really a learning that was just simply mistakes. The first goal was similar in that the centre back for Galway, who is John Daly, he's an excellent passer of the ball, and we know he's an excellent passer of the ball. So when he's 45, 50 yards out, maybe 55 yards out in this case, he has a lovely left foot, and he floated a lovely ball in. Now, I think it went further than he intended because Comer came in front. And when Comer and Eddie McGuinness, the full-back, put on the brakes, Eddie slipped and fell, and Comer then got in behind, So again, is that a learning? I don't necessarily think so. It's a mistake. It's a slip, and then it's a pass across the face of the goal. Tierney at that stage was standing at the edge of the square, so it was, he hadn't come late. His man had moved to the lane to try and stop maybe a goal shot from Comer. So I don't see those as learnings. To be honest, I see them as just simply mistakes that we had. Learnings for me were more around, some parts of our attack and play. Can we do better at it? Are we cluttering our own space in front of us? Also, some of the runs from Tierney, as an example, he came off the wing really well, time and time again, and he was very hard to stop. Now he's a powerful big man, let's be fair, and with good pace. But when he cuts off the wing and that, he's causing huge amounts of harm every time he does it, and that's maybe aspects of a game we need to look at and learn how we can deal with that better.
Yeah, you're talking about positives there, and even as you mentioned, keeping some of those Galway sharpshooters reasonably quiet. And even if you look at other positives, Tony, like the first 10 minutes of the game in particular, you're running through unchallenged, and that was certainly picked up at half time in the television coverage, that a lot of the Sligo runners, through the half forward line and further in, we're certainly Galway defenders were finding it hard to get a hand on them, and there was a couple of nice scores as well from, I think there was one score in particular, Dara Cummins I think it was, with a very instinctive score at one point in the game as well. So there are certainly, I'm sure, things that you're going to take away from this and sit down and say, well, look, we did a lot of things right as well.
Oh, the many aspects, like, you know, you're talking about the runners, like, and we actually have a lot of pace in the team, in the Sligo team, and it's pace in a positive direction, like pace going forwards, like Evan Lanes, Mullins, Terry, Spillane, and there's more in there just not coming to mind, but we've a lot of pace and there's a lot of good runners going forward, you know. And I was delighted to see the weekend that there was many aspects of our play that we have that we've developed, I suppose, or the players have developed throughout the National League and have taken it into the championship. You know, I was delighted that we didn't sit back and become just a defensive team trying to curb Galway, because I don't think that works anywhere against that Galway team, you know. So I am happy that we tried to put our best foot forward, and there just parts of that game we just fell short on, you know, and most of that is simply mistakes that we made, you know. But isn't that okay? You know, this isn't you know, we spoke to players before. This isn't a case of failing, you know, and because we're now up against 3 more teams, like, so we're likely to get 4 tough days out here. But this isn't really a case of failing that we spoke to players about. This is more a case of that's the first attempt at getting this right. We're now going to have a second attempt next Saturday now against Kildare, and then there'll be a third attempt against Roscommon and a fourth attempt against Dublin. And each of those occasions we learn a wee bit more and move on, you know. And we're not looking at this as a terrible occasion or a terrible experience or anything like that at all, because it isn't. It isn't at all anything like that, you know. And I think we're all in the same boat as this, you know.
I'm half inspired listening to you here, and it also brings to mind the comments of Niall Murphy. Recently, Tony was talking about you bringing a bit of grit, belief, arrogance, he said. I don't know if you saw those quotes, or were you thinking, Jesus, you could have kept a few of those thoughts to yourself. He said that you're very good speaking to the group. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you people speak about that stuff all the time, but practically, how does that work?
To be fair, you can only work with the group that you have, okay? And in Sligo at the minute, we have a lot of positivity coming on at this stage. Now, I'm not just talking about the under-20s here, because the under-20s are a fabulous story within Sligo. We've had back-to-back Connacht championships with 2 different management teams, and with a big change from last year's team as well. You know, I think there was maybe 10 or 11 of those fellas who moved on from the panel last year, so it's quite a change on that as well. So there's a huge bunch of positivity there coming with those on the 20s, and obviously before that, one of those groups was 17 years of age coming through, and we have the school situation as well with the 2 colleges doing really well. Then on the back of that, then we have a senior team now which is progressing reasonably well. To be fair, you know, we've had a really good Division 4 this year, and I think within that Division 4 we've had. I don't mean this to come across arrogant at this stage, though I appreciate it might do, is that we were comfortable in Division 4. We won most of our games by 4 or 5 points, or certainly in the last couple of minutes, or last 10 minutes in all them games. We were, in some games, 8 and 10 points up, you know, before teams maybe got last minute goals. So that comfort throughout Division 4 has allowed us to express ourselves a wee bit more and develop our game a wee bit more when we weren't under as much pressure as maybe we have been, you know. And that has helped. That has formed, I suppose, over this past couple of years through an excellent S&C programme, which Sean Boyle oversees. And then Joe Keane, who heads up all the coaching and the training. And Joe, I suppose, develops the coaching plan that we all put, well, I suppose the football plan that we put together, and Joe develops that on the football field as a strategy, you know. And then we took in then quality people in Paul Dorkin, Noel Boyle, who's the last captain of Sligo to win the Connacht title, and Colin McFadden then this year as the forwards coach, you know. So we have a really good team here. Like, so while, you know, I mean, there are aspects of this game where people say, oh, Tony's involved in this, I really have an excellent team here around me, you know. And it's not just an excellent team, guys, it's a team that have real experience here. Because McFadden, Dorkin, myself all have success at our learning senior level. While it's in the past, it's still very much relevant at the minute. Noel has the success in Connacht, and Joe, as a coach, he would have been involved in the background teams in Mayo before, and he has an All-Ireland medal himself playing with Crossmolina. So like, I think as a management team, we are a strong management team, and from that there we bring that bit of confidence that Niall Murphy is talking about, because we do believe that we can offer something as a management group. But we also believe that we can actually communicate this at least reasonably well to the players, and that the players then can develop as a result of that. And I think to date, there is some evidence of that, and I would hope that over the next 3 games that we will learn, as I said at the start, more about ourselves and more about the team, so that can be brought then hopefully into a Division 3 next year, where we want to emulate the likes of Loud making that progress, or Fermanagh making the great progress that Fermanagh has made, or Antrim making the good progress that Antrim has made, coming from 4 into 3 and so on. So, I think we can do that, and as a management team, we have every confidence that we can do it.
I think it's probably no surprise to anyone that Sligo's scoring average has gone up this year. When you mention the likes of Colin McFadden coming in as forwards coach, working with Niall Murphy and Carabine and Spillane, as you say, so that's clearly a massive coup for yourselves, and as you say, it's a solid backroom team. The under-20s thing as well, Tony. Like, what a story! It's unbelievable. That 2-point win over Kerry last weekend at Pearse Stadium, such an exciting game as well. This final to look forward to against Kildare, it's going to be a cracker because both teams, I think, will fancy it. Do you liaise closely with Paul Henry, or how does that all work? Like, it's I'm sure exciting for you as the Sligo manager to see the depth and breadth of talent coming through.
So 2 years ago, the Sligo County Board, Sean Carroll in this case, came to me and said, listen, we want to look about protecting the under-20s and giving them their space. And so I agreed with this. I agreed with the County Board's direction. It wasn't my idea now, it was the County Board's idea. So I agreed with the County Board that under-20s should have their own protection, and that we would not look at under-20s until such times as the under-20 championship had finished. So heretofore, for the past 2 years, then we have not had any involvement of any description or any influence of any description in the under-20s and their progress towards Connacht championship success in those 2 years. And nor have we had any participation from those under-21 players in anything whatsoever to do with the seniors over those 2 years. Now, while that's a loss for us, obviously, because we would love to see some of them under-20s, I think it is fair and proper that they get the chance to compete at their own level. And when it's over, then that we get the chance to look at them. So at the end of last year, once the under-20s was over last year, there were maybe 3 or 4 of the fellas come into the seniors just for a couple of weeks before the year was over. And then they all joined then this year once the season started. Now, I suspect that may be the same with the under-20s this year. But to be honest, I haven't gone to that space yet. So I don't know if we will look at the under-20s coming in or not. And I don't know if they'll be interested in coming in or not. My initial gut feeling is that, God willing, after the All-Ireland final and they win it, that they get their break and they go back to the clubs and they enjoy themselves without worrying about the stresses of the county senior football. But it's a brilliant story. It's a brilliant time in Sligo. It's a brilliant occasion for us. We take a lot from the under-20s success, because every bit of success in Sligo is important.
Jeez, I can imagine, chance for a first All-Ireland title, that level certainly upcoming. And as you mentioned, you have the 3 games in the round-robin stage now. As you said, the home game against Kildare first up, the weekend after next, away against Roscommon then on that weekend of June 3rd or 4th, and then against the Leinster champions, we'd imagine it'll be Dublin on the weekend of June 17th or 18th. So that, Tony, against, say it's Dublin, it's supposed to be a neutral venue game. What do you say, and this is a conversation that's come up in the last week or two, what do you say if someone turns around to you and says, oh, by the way, you're playing Dublin in the last game and the neutral venue is Croke Park?
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to wash, guys. I think the neutral venue in this case will have to be Cavan, because if Kildare and Sligo can play an All-Ireland final, and it has to be in a little venue up there, and it's in Breffy Park, Cavan, I can't see why Dublin would be any different. Or we're talking about Dublin, obviously, potential winners, but Croke Park's clearly not a neutral venue.
Because Glenn Ryan, I suppose, had those comments after Kildare were beaten narrowly by the Dubs in the semi-final in Leinster, and you can kind of see where he's coming from, because it is a home venue for Dublin, no matter what way you swing it. It's in terms of even the dressing room, the home comforts, the familiarity. There's really no discussion there, I guess.
Yes, no, I agree entirely with Glenn Ryan, and in this case, all those big fields don't offer any challenge, any major challenge for that Dublin team. Like, they're a very confident team, they're a very mobile team. They're equally as good whether it be in Dublin or elsewhere. So I don't see them, the players themselves or the management for that matter, having any concern about travelling to any of the big fields at all, Breffni Park or Thurles or anywhere else. Actually, any game might be played. So I actually don't think that the Dublin players would have any issue with that whatsoever. In fact, I'm not even sure the Dublin management would. So in all honesty, I think it's Glenn Rain's right to raise it, entirely right to raise it. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't raise it. But for us, anyway, when playing in Croke Park against Dubs offers nothing to us, and so we'll certainly be looking for it to be in a neutral venue if it is Dublin.
Very final one for me, Tony. How are you enjoying the coaching ultimately so far? Because I know you quit county football at 29, you quit football generally then across at 32, you got into the coaching, you were with Stephen Rochford's backroom team in Mayo, so you've got plenty of experience at club level as well before that. So is it something you enjoy? Because I know you're doing work, am I right in saying in hospice, or certainly work that are long hours?
Yes, so I work actually in a medical device company, so I have my own company there, in medical devices, so I spend a lot of hours in it. So it is difficult to balance the two things. At the minute, most of my role in Sligo has been and is now more on the management side than coaching side. Obviously, I do a small bit of that. So because, as I said, Joe Kane is the main coach in it, but the hours are sizable. And when you're involved with Sligo, it's like maybe 2 hours 15 from home, so it is quite a challenge making both ends meet. But I do enjoy it. I really love the people over there in Sligo. I was at Mayo beforehand. I love the people of the West. I have to say, they've been always very good to me and very receptive of me. And the people I'm involved with, the county board and both Mayo before this and Sligo now, are also very good to me. And they're always very kind and willing to help. So for now, yes, I very much enjoy it. How long that'll last, I guess, it's hard to tell.
Who knows? I was listening to Martin O'Neill on the TV last night talking about the difference between being a manager and a coach. And are you happier being a manager or a coach?
I have more evolved now into the management role. So right now, I'd say I'm more happier being a manager than a coach. They're two massively different jobs, and the focus in both those roles is massively different, So, yes, for now, anyhow, certainly in this role in Sligo at the minute, the management role is much more content for me.
Brilliant stuff. Well, listen, Tony, really appreciate the time. No doubt we'll catch up again across the coming months as the championship progresses, and best of luck in that round robin phase. I'm sure we'll be chatting to you on the back end as well.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Edwin.
Great stuff. Tony McEntee there, the Sligo senior football boss.